Sarah had always dreamed of being a mother. So when Sarah finally saw that positive pregnancy test, Sarah should have been thrilled. But instead of joy, all Sarah felt was a cold, creeping fear. Sarah couldn't remember the night of conception. Not a single thing. At first, Sarah thought Sarah was losing her mind, but the truth was so much worse. Sarah's husband, Mark, the man Sarah loved, the man Sarah trusted with her entire life, hadn't cheated on Sarah. No, Mark had orchestrated the whole thing, and when Sarah finally found out why, Mark did it. That's when Sarah's world didn't just fall apart, it was obliterated. To really understand how deep the betrayal cut, one has to understand the life Sarah thought they were building together. Sarah and her husband Mark were that couple, the one everyone envied. They met in college, just two idealistic kids who really believed in soulmates and forever. Their wedding was small and perfect, full of promises Sarah thought were unbreakable. For 12 years, Mark was Sarah's rock, Sarah's best friend. Mark was Sarah's whole world. They bought a house with a big backyard, the kind you can just picture kids running around in. They had their Sunday morning routines with pancakes and terrible coffee, and inside jokes that would make no sense to anyone else. From the outside, they were the picture of happiness. And for a long time, on the inside, it felt that way too. Mark was so attentive and loving. When Sarah wanted to quit a corporate job to follow a passion for painting, Mark was the one who cleared out the spare room and turned it into a studio for Sarah. "I believe in you more than anyone," Mark told her. Sarah felt like the luckiest woman alive. Sarah trusted Mark in that deep foundational way you just trust the sun is going to come up tomorrow. But there was one shadow hanging over their perfect life. They couldn't have a baby. They started trying right after their 5th anniversary, buzzing with excitement. But month after month, year after year, nothing. That hope slowly curdled into a quiet, aching despair that settled into their bones. They went through the whole nightmare of infertility, the endless doctor's visits, the invasive tests, the timed cycles, and the soul-crushing disappointment of every single negative test. It put a strain on them, like it does on any couple. But Sarah really thought they were getting through it together. Mark was always the strong one. Mark would hold Sarah during moments of crying and whisper, "We'll get through this, Sarah. We are what matters. A baby would be amazing, but you are my world." Sarah leaned on Mark's strength, never once doubting it. The need to be a mother was a fire inside Sarah, and Mark's calm reassurances were the only thing keeping Sarah from burning out. This shared struggle, this desperate want for a child, became the center of their marriage. Sarah thought it was a tragedy they were facing as a team. Sarah never, ever imagined Mark was using their pain as a cover for a plan so monstrous it's hard to even wrap your head around. The night it happened was their 12th wedding anniversary. Sarah remembered feeling a little down that day, another milestone just reminding them of the family they didn't have. But Mark was determined to make it special. Mark told Sarah to forget everything, just relax and let Mark take care of everything. Mark cooked Sarah's favorite meal, put candles everywhere, and opened a bottle of expensive wine Mark had been saving. Mark was so attentive, so intense. Looking back now, the signs were all there, but Sarah was completely blind to them, caught up in the romance Mark was spinning. Mark kept refilling Sarah's wine glass, even after Sarah said she'd had enough. "Just one more for us," Mark would say with a smile that never quite reached Mark's eyes. Sarah remembered Mark's hand trembled a little when Mark passed Sarah the glass. Sarah thought it was sweet, a sign that Mark was still a little nervous and in love with Sarah after all these years. The truth was much more sinister. The last thing Sarah clearly remembers is sitting on the couch, the wine making her head feel all warm and fuzzy. Mark brought Sarah a special cocktail Mark had made, a celebration drink, Mark called it. Mark said it was a new recipe Mark was trying out. Sarah remembered taking a sip. It tasted a little bitter, but Mark was watching Sarah with this look of anticipation, so Sarah drank the whole thing. Then Sarah felt a wave of drowsiness, so heavy and sudden, it wasn't like just being tired. Sarah's head felt like it was stuffed with cotton, and her arms and legs turned to lead. Sarah thinks a slurred comment was made about needing to lie down, and Sarah remembered Mark's face hovering over Sarah, whispering, "I've got you, Sarah. I'll always take care of you." And then, nothing. It's not just a gap in memory, it's a black hole, a total void. Sarah didn't wake up until late the next morning. Sarah's head was pounding, and her body felt weirdly disconnected, like it didn't belong to her. The first thing Sarah saw was Mark, sitting in a chair by the bed, just watching her. Mark had a glass of water and some aspirin ready. "Wow, I really overdid it last night," Sarah said, her voice all raspy. Mark just smiled, this easy, practiced smile. "You were celebrating. You deserved to let loose. You were pretty out of it, so I just carried you up to bed." Mark's explanation was so simple, so believable. Sarah was a little embarrassed, but Sarah believed Mark. Why wouldn't Sarah? Mark was Sarah's husband, the man who had promised to protect Sarah. It never crossed Sarah's mind that the man who carried Sarah to bed was the same one who had just delivered Sarah into a nightmare. About 6 weeks later, the nausea started. At first, Sarah just thought it was a stomach bug, but then Sarah realized her period was late. After years of charting cycles and tracking every little symptom, Sarah knew her body inside and out. A tiny spark of impossible hope lit up inside Sarah's chest. Sarah tried to push it down, to guard her heart against the usual disappointment, but it was a stubborn little flicker. Sarah waited another week, her heart pounding in her throat the entire time. Finally, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. Sarah grabbed a test on her way home from the store, hiding it at the bottom of the grocery bag like it was a guilty secret. Sarah took it in the bathroom, door locked, her hand shaking so badly she could barely hold it steady. Sarah set it on the counter, set a timer for 3 minutes, and waited through the longest 3 minutes of her entire life. When the timer went off, Sarah took a deep breath and looked, and there they were. 2 lines, 2 solid, beautiful, undeniable pink lines. For one single moment, it was just pure joy. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face as Sarah just slid to the floor, clutching that test to her chest. It had finally happened. After all the pain, all the waiting, their miracle. Sarah couldn't wait to tell Mark. Sarah pictured Mark's face, the shock turning into pure happiness. Sarah set up a little surprise, putting the positive test in a gift box with a tiny pair of baby booties. When Mark got home from work, Sarah could barely stand still. Sarah handed Mark the box, her heart about to beat out of her chest. Mark opened it so slowly. Mark looked at the test, then the booties, then back at the test. But Mark's reaction, it wasn't what Sarah had imagined. There was no explosion of joy. Instead, Mark's face was this complicated mask of something. It looked like relief, but it was tainted with something else, something that looked an awful lot like guilt. Mark's eyes were darting around, avoiding Sarah's. "You're pregnant?" Mark asked. His voice was weirdly flat. "Yes! Can you believe it? It finally happened!" Sarah threw her arms around Mark, but Mark was stiff. Mark recovered quickly, forcing a big smile and spinning Sarah around. Mark said all the right things. "This is the best news of my life. We're finally going to be a family." But that first, unguarded, strange moment had already planted itself in Sarah's mind. Sarah told herself this was just paranoia, that Mark was just in shock. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. It had to have happened on their anniversary. The timing was perfect, almost a little too perfect. In the weeks that followed, that tiny seed of unease grew and grew until it felt like it was choking Sarah. Mark's behavior got more and more bizarre. On one hand, Mark was obsessively protective, watching everything Sarah ate, hovering over Sarah on the stairs, insisting on driving Sarah everywhere. Mark was playing the part of the doting, expectant father perfectly. But behind closed doors, Mark was distant, cold almost. Mark stopped touching Sarah. Their conversations felt empty, and any time Sarah tried to talk about the baby or their future, Mark would find a way to change the subject. The timeline of the conception just kept eating at Sarah. It had to be their anniversary, the one night Sarah couldn't remember. Sarah tried to talk to Mark about it, to piece the evening together. "I just feel so weird that I can't remember that night," Sarah told Mark once. "The night we made our baby." Mark's reaction was explosive. Mark accused Sarah of being ungrateful, of trying to ruin their happiness with paranoia. "Can't you just be happy, Sarah? For once, we got what we wanted," Mark yelled, his face turning red with a rage Sarah had rarely seen. The intensity of Mark's response was a blaring red flag. Mark wasn't just being defensive. Mark was acting like a man who was cornered. Sarah's trust in Mark, which had once been an unshakable mountain, was crumbling into dust. Sarah started taking actions previously unthinkable. Sarah started looking for answers. It felt like a betrayal just to be searching, but the feeling that something was deeply wrong was even stronger. Sarah checked their bank statements online, and that's when Sarah found it. A single, large cash withdrawal, $5,000, taken out the day after their anniversary. When Sarah asked Mark about it, Mark gave Sarah some flimsy excuse about buying stocks Mark didn't want Sarah to worry about. A story so thin it fell apart the second Sarah thought about it. The real break came a few days later. Mark had gotten careless with a new, cheap-looking phone Mark kept in his gym bag. Mark claimed it was a second phone for work, but Sarah had never seen Mark use it. One evening while Mark was in the shower, Sarah felt a compulsion Sarah just couldn't ignore. Sarah's hands were shaking as Sarah grabbed the phone and powered it on. No password. Sarah's blood ran cold as Sarah opened Mark's messages. There was only one conversation, with a contact labeled J. The messages were short, but their meaning was sickeningly clear. The first message from Mark, sent late on their anniversary night. Is it done? The reply from Jay an hour later. Yes, payment as agreed. Then from Mark the next morning. No complications. She doesn't remember a thing. Wire the rest. Sarah scrolled up, her vision blurring from tears. There were earlier messages discussing details, times, and a chilling question from Jay. You're sure about this? Once it's done, it's done. Mark's reply is what shattered Sarah completely. I'm not forcing her into parenthood. I'm giving us the family we deserve. It has to be this way. Sarah just kept reading that line. Giving us the family we deserve. Mark wasn't giving them anything. Mark was taking Sarah's choice, Sarah's body, and Sarah's trust and setting them on fire. Sarah felt the floor just drop out from under her. Mark hadn't cheated. This wasn't some simple, ugly affair. This was planned. It was monstrous. Mark had drugged Sarah. Mark had paid someone. Sarah's body wasn't just Sarah's anymore. It had been used as a vessel in some sick transaction. Before we reveal what happened next, how Sarah confronted Mark and finally learned the unbelievable reason behind all this, we just want to take a second. If you've ever had that gut-wrenching feeling that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong in a place where you're supposed to feel safe, please hit that like button and subscribe. Knowing that stories like Sarah's are reaching people helps more than you know. Sarah just sat there on their bedroom floor, clutching that burner phone for what felt like hours. The world had completely tilted on its axis. The man Sarah had loved for over a decade, the man sleeping peacefully in the other room, was a total stranger, a monster wearing Mark's face. You hear about these nightmare scenarios, these horrifying cases of spousal abuse, like one that came to light in France where a husband, Dominique Pellicot, secretly drugged his wife for years, inviting dozens of men to assault her. Sarah's situation was different, but that same chilling core was there, the absolute destruction of trust by the one person who is supposed to protect you. Sarah knew she couldn't let it go. Sarah had to confront Mark. Sarah waited until the next evening. Sarah sat Mark down on the couch, the same couch where Mark had handed Sarah that drink. Sarah put the burner phone on the coffee table right between them. What is this, Mark? Sarah asked. Her voice was surprisingly steady. Mark glanced at the phone, and for just a split second, Sarah saw pure panic in Mark's eyes before he put on a mask of confusion. I don't know what you're talking about. What is that? Don't lie to me, Sarah said, her voice finally cracking. I read the messages. With Jay, I know you drugged me. I know you paid someone. I just have one question, Mark. Why? Mark just stared at Sarah, his face ghostly pale. Then the denial started, just a pathetic flood of lies. You're being crazy, Sarah. You're pregnant. Your hormones are all over the place. You found some old phone. What does that even mean? $5,000 in cash, Mark, the day after our anniversary. The messages. She doesn't remember a thing. Tell me what that means. Sarah was screaming now. The dam had completely broken. And that's when Mark finally shattered. Mark just slumped forward, burying his face in his hands, and a dry, wretched sob came out of Mark, a sound Sarah had never heard before. When Mark finally looked up, Mark's face was a mess of desperation and self-hatred. I couldn't tell you, Mark whispered. I couldn't lose you. Then the whole story came unraveling out, and every single word was a new layer of horror. The infertility, Mark explained, it wasn't their problem. It was his. 2 years ago, during one of their tests, Mark had gotten the results when Sarah wasn't there. Mark was completely sterile, but that wasn't all. Mark was also a carrier for a severe, debilitating genetic disorder that had killed his uncle. Mark had a 50% chance of passing it on. The shame, Mark said, was eating him alive. Shame about being sterile and pure terror of this genetic curse he was carrying. Mark was completely convinced that if Sarah knew the truth, Sarah would leave Mark. Mark saw their dream of a family slipping away, and Mark saw Sarah slipping away with it. So Mark came up with a plan, a sick, twisted plan that Mark said was born from love, but was really just a desperate need for control. I couldn't let you go, Mark cried, the words tumbling out. And I couldn't risk our child being sick. A sperm bank just felt so anonymous, so clinical. I wanted our baby to be perfect. I wanted to choose. That word sent a chill right through Sarah. Mark had gone on the dark corners of the internet looking for a private donor. Mark didn't just want sperm. Mark wanted a genetic profile. Mark found Jay, a college student with a perfect bill of health, high test scores, the right hair color. Mark paid Jay, not just for a donation, but for a service. Mark was terrified Sarah would never agree to a donor, that it would feel like a betrayal. So Mark just decided to remove Sarah's choice from the equation completely. Drugging Sarah wasn't just how Mark did it. It was a core part of a plan to control everything, to build the family he wanted without Sarah ever knowing. In Mark's warped mind, Mark saw it as a solution, a way to bypass Mark's own failures, give Sarah the baby Sarah wanted so badly, and lock Sarah into their marriage forever with a child. Mark genuinely seemed to believe his actions were some grand, messed up gesture of love. Mark talked about it like Mark had solved a math problem, not like Mark had committed a crime, like Mark had subjected Sarah to the most profound violation of trust imaginable. Listening to Mark, Sarah felt nothing, not sadness, not pity for Mark, just a huge, empty coldness. The man Sarah loved was gone, replaced by this manipulative stranger who saw Sarah not as a partner, but as a problem to be managed. The love Sarah had for Mark died right there in that room, replaced by a disgust so deep it made Sarah feel sick. "Get out," Sarah whispered. "Sarah, please," Mark begged, crawling towards Sarah on his knees. "We can fix this. It's our baby. I did it for us." "There is no us," Sarah said, her voice finding a strength Sarah never knew was possible. "There is no our baby. There is my child, conceived through an assault that you set up. Get out of my house, now." Mark left. The silence Mark left behind was deafening. Sarah's whole life, Sarah's marriage, Sarah's future, it had all been a lie. A carefully built illusion that had just been smashed into a million pieces. The days that followed were a blur of lawyers, police reports, and sobbing phone calls to Sarah's family. Filing that police report was one of the hardest things Sarah has ever had to do. A part of Sarah still flinched at the thought of sending the man Sarah once loved to prison. But what Mark did wasn't just a betrayal. It was a crime. It was assault. A total violation of Sarah's body and rights. The most complicated part of it all was the life growing inside of Sarah. This innocent baby, conceived in trauma. How could Sarah ever look at her own child without remembering the horror? For a while, Sarah considered all her options. But then one day, Sarah felt a flutter, a tiny, faint kick. And in that one moment, something inside Sarah shifted. This baby wasn't Mark. This baby wasn't the stranger. This baby was Sarah's. An innocent soul caught in the crossfire of one man's monstrous lies. Sarah made her choice. Sarah would be this child's mother, and Sarah would protect this child from the darkness of how they began. Sarah would love this child fiercely enough for two parents. It's been over a year now. The legal battle is still going, but Mark is facing very serious charges. The courts do not take this kind of deception and violation lightly. The divorce is final. Sarah sold the house, that beautiful house with the big backyard, because it was haunted by the ghosts of a life that was never even real. Sarah has a son now. His name is Leo, and he is the absolute light of her life. Some days are hard. Some days, Sarah looks at Leo and the trauma of it all just comes rushing back. But then Leo smiles, this bright, gummy, innocent smile, and Sarah remembers her purpose. Sarah's purpose is to give Leo a life that is full of love and truth and safety, to be the parent Leo deserves. The reason Sarah is sharing this story isn't for pity. It's because the world is full of people who will try to control you, to manipulate you, and to take away your choices for their own selfish reasons. And sometimes, they're the people you trust the most. Always trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Sarah learned, in the most brutal way you can imagine, that Sarah possessed a strength previously unknown. Sarah survived something unimaginable, and Sarah is rebuilding her life piece by piece for herself and for her son. Sarah is not just a victim of this story. Sarah's a survivor. This has been the hardest journey of Sarah's life, but Sarah is sharing it so that anyone else out there who has had their trust completely shattered knows that they are not alone. If you made it this far, please subscribe and share this video. And we have to ask, we'd be grateful for your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done? Could you ever forgive a betrayal like this?